Cornel West. He's one of America's most provocative intellectuals.
Not one Wall Street executive gone to jail, let Jamal get caught on the corner with a crack bag, going straight to jail. That's a two-tiered system.
A renowned academic, he's taught at Harvard, Yale, and the University of Paris. Political activist, he's campaigned against poverty and the criminalization of African-American youth. He supported Barack Obama in the 2008 campaign, but now he's a severe critic of the president on issues like the use of drones.
They're running an empire. They're running a killing machine.
Outspoken and controversial. What does he think of a possible Hillary Clinton bid for the White House?
First woman president, symbolic.
And what would Martin Luther King think 50 years on from his I Have a Dream speech?
No, I think that Brother Martin would have tears in his eyes.
Dr. Cornel West, professor of philosophy and Christian practice at the Union Theological Seminary in New York and professor at Princeton, our special guest on Talk to Al Jazeera. Dr. Cornel West, welcome to Talk to Al Jazeera. Good to have you.
And let me say that I salute Al Jazeera. We need fresh air in contemporary journalism. To have high-quality journalists once again on the air is a beautiful thing to behold.
We'll see if you still say that 30 minutes from now after this interview. You are a
thing.
World-renowned academic, theologian, activist. You've lectured around the globe. If there's one thing that you want people to take away from your lectures, your appearances, what would it be?
It would be that it's always worthwhile to engage in a quest for truth, understanding that the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak, that a baby in every corner of the globe, be it in Tel Aviv or be it on the West Bank, a baby in Yemen, Somalia, or Pakistan, or Yemen in Newtown, Connecticut, or a baby in Southside Chicago, Koreatown, Brown Barrio, Indian Reservation, they all have the same value. And that's not just empty rhetoric. It means that you're fundamentally committed to the decency and the humanity of each and every person, at least potential. Each human being has a potential to be decent, has a potential to have integrity, has a potential to be honest. And it means you cut radically against the grain because we live in an age of monstrous mendacity.
You appreciated the decency and the values of Barack Obama back in 2008. You appeared at more than 60 campaign events for him during that cycle. Now you're one of the president's toughest critics. You even referred to him as a war criminal. What happened?
Oh, no, nothing happened at all. The 65 events that I attended, each speech I gave, I said, I want him to win because he's better than the alternative at present, that I would break dance the afternoon he did win, and I would be his major critic the next morning because I was not supporting him just as candidate. I had a critique of the system as a whole. It was a strategic move. He was the best candidate vis-a-vis the other candidate. But I wanted to be a major critic. Why? Because I had a feeling that no matter, even if he won, he still would need serious pushing.
But it's one thing to be a critic, it's another to call him a war criminal.
No, just telling the truth. I mean, if you've already authorized killings that resulted in 221 innocent children and hundreds of innocent adults, I don't care what color they are, those are crimes, and they're war crimes because they were done in the name of a war that's undeclared. But I'd said the same thing about Bush. I'd said the same thing about Johnson when I was young.
But these were unintentional deaths. I mean, the president has said himself that drones are effective in fighting terrorism. They're only used as a last resort. They have saved lives. What's the alternative?
No, I mean, the alternative is that you first say that you're going to engage in various kinds of strategies and tactics that not just minimize killing of innocent people, but will also tell the truth when you do, because the lies that you tell, the kind of perjury even that folk have told in front of Congress, hide and conceal that kind of barbarity.
Has President Obama perjured himself in front of Congress or the American people?
No, he hasn't himself. He has said, he's had Brennan say that no innocent civilian was killed. Lie.
But they didn't intend.
But it's not a matter of intention. They're running an empire. They're running a killing machine. And when they meet on Tuesday and make those choices, and over again, innocent people and innocent children are killed, that's a pattern of behavior. So they'll never come out and say, I intend to kill these innocent children. But they're collateral damage. I hate that term, collateral damage. It means that innocent lives are overlooked in the name of some kind of narrow militaristic end in aim.
But back to the use of the phrase war criminal, doesn't that diminish the significance of intentional atrocities that are committed during war?
No, I don't think so. I think what it does is diminishes his moral authority. It means, in fact, that for someone who heads a global killing machine, that we have to look very closely at what kind of ethical grounds and moral authority he has as head. But it's not just him personally. This was true for Bush. It will more likely be true for Clinton after.
But if you were sitting in the Oval Office, President Dr. Cornel West, and you were presented with all the information that you had, and you decided, you know what, I have to go after this particular target. Would it be more moral to use tanks, to carpet bomb, to send in boots on the ground?
Well, I wouldn't be in that situation because I'd probably get shot the first day with the oligarchs and plutocrats coming at me, given my attempt to always try to tell the truth. I would not want to mislead the people. I wouldn't want to lie about what's going on.
You understand my question.
But I understand it make tough. It make tough decisions, absolutely. But what that means, then there's something wrong with a system that requires the head of that system to engage in that kind of activity that results in the loss of precious lives. Now, how do we create a better world, a better system, a better society, a better government, and a better culture? Culture of journalism, to allow the journalists to get at the truth. Well, not to buy them off, incorporate them, embed them, and so forth.
But the truth is that the United States has been a nation at war for some time, that most of the American people have given that authority to the president to take care of that war.
We haven't declared war since World War I.
But the American people have said to the president, okay, this is a war, we support you. And the president, as commander-in-chief, has decided this is the most effective, the safest way to try to go after the targets that we're trying to go after.
Well, we have to unpack what we mean by effective and what we mean by safest. It's like here in New York City, some of us went to jail because of stop and frisk, because they're talking about it generates high levels of crime without stop and frisk. You say, well, if you really want to eliminate crime, just create a fascist New York. Streets are clean, no rights, no liberties. Everybody's so afraid that they won't do anything outside of the law, and everybody's safe. That's very effective and safe. No, there's something called morality. There's something called spirituality, how you relate to one another, how you connect with one another, how you conceive of public interest and common good. There's something called democracy that highlights common good and public interest. Those are the things that it seems to me we have to zero in on, and when we do, we cut radically against the grain.
Morality, democracy, the common good. By that very definition, can't you judge President Obama's presidency as a success? I mean, he kept us out of a depression, he passed health care reform, he wound down the Iraq War, repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, named the first Latina to the Supreme Court.
No, not really, because when you look at bottoms up, the increase in the new Jim Crow, 2.5 million prisoners, over 62% there because of soft drugs, a significant number there because of the 100-to-1 percentage rate, a ratio, as it were, for crack cocaine as opposed to regular cocaine. You look at the privatizing of education, you look at the levels of corruption still at work on Wall Street, with not one Wall Street executive gone to jail. Let Jamal get caught on the corner with a crack bag, going straight to jail. That's a two-tiered system. It's a deeply unfair system. Those are the realities, and massive unemployment still at work.
Isn't it also the reality, though, as a lot of your fellow political scientists have suggested, that if the economy were worse, the drug use, the poverty, the crime rate would go up? So the fact that he saved the economy, we've had 50 straight months of economic growth, that it may be unequal, but at least it has lifted some people up.
Well, we have to look at what we mean, though, my dear brother, about save the economy. Most of the jobs we're talking about are low-wage jobs. Large numbers of fellow citizens have given up going to work, or many are working part-time. None of that counts when it comes to statistics, as it were. And profits for the rich corporations and big banks are breaking records. Executive compensation, breaking records. That's increasing wealth inequality. That's not so much saving the economy. He saved a particular version of capitalism so it didn't collapse. He, Larry Summers, Tim Geithner, give them credit. Banks doing well. How are homeowners doing? Still catching hail. How are workers doing? Catching hail. Poor people rendered invisible. Poor children in inner cities rendered invisible with privatizers. Can't wait to go in and create these market-driven schools.
I hear what you're saying about inequality, but is there anything positive that you can say about President Obama?
Oh, he's given some wonderful speeches.
That's it?
He gives some wonderful speeches. Healthcare we were holding out on, but my God, you know, it's still the pharmaceutical insurance companies in the driver's seat. It becomes a bonanza for them, and it still leaves out 19 million fellow citizens. He said he was going to fight for the public option. He didn't do it. So you say he's given wonderful speeches. Thank God he still, you know, has these magnificent children and his lovely wife in the White House.
You have a magnificent reputation. You're known around the world. You're respected around the world. And yet there are some African-American opinion leaders who say that you, Dr. Cornel West, are damaging your own legacy by being so scathing in your criticism of President Obama. What have you gained?
I'm not worried about my legacy. These things are transient and contingent. If I can bear witness to the best of my ability, if I can be true to what Martin Luther King Jr., Frederick Douglass, Ida B. Wells, and Fannie Lou Hamer were talking about, that's what it's about. When they talk about legacy, they're talking about what the establishment figures have to say about you. When they talk about legacy, they're talking about what the mainstream and the streamline have to say about you. I don't give a damn what they have to say about me. I'm being true to what my mother and father put inside of me, which is this sense of trying to love everybody. And justice is what love looks like in public, just like tenderness is what love feels like in private. And that's what I'm committed to.
Dr. Cornel West, we will continue right after this.
Only on Al Jazeera America.
I live that character.
Go one-on-one with America's movers and shakers.
We will be able to see change.
Gripping, inspiring, entertaining. No topic off limits.
I'm like, Dad, there are hookers in this house.
Exclusive conversations you won't find anywhere else.
These are very vivid human stories. If you have an agenda with people, you sometimes don't see the truth.
To watch new episodes of Talk to Al Jazeera, check your local listings or visit aljazeera.com.
And we're back with Dr. Cornel West. We're marking the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. Would Dr. King have been surprised that within 50 years, we have an African American as President of the United States?
You know, I think that Brother Martin would have tears in his eyes because he always looked at the least of these, and he would look at the levels of poverty among children of all colors. He'd look at the wages of working people. He would look at Black America and see Black America so confused that we're so obsessed with being successful in terms of money and not really focusing on being faithful in terms of being decent persons, persons of integrity and quality and magnanimity. Martin Luther King Jr. was a real freedom fighter as well as Christian minister. And as a Christian minister, he took the cross seriously. The cross was a symbol of unarmed truth and unconditional love, telling the truth in regard to the least of these, and a love that always took the form of a struggle for justice. And so on the one hand, he'd look at a Black president, he would say, oh, symbolically, that's wonderful. Now let me see what the situation is. I was in Chicago, let's go back to Chicago. Oh, look at all of the blood flowing. Look at the low quality education. Look at the massive unemployment. Look at the lack of health care. Look at the dilapidated housing. Let me go to the vanilla suburbs. Oh, look at those mansions. Look at the yachts. Look at the so-and-so, the very thing I was fighting for, poor people's campaign. It's worse off now than it was then. Let me look at U.S. foreign policy. But he would zero in on the drones. He would say, look, I actually sacrificed so much of my reputation or my legacy by critiquing the U.S. imperial activity in the war. The napalm dropped on poor folk. Now look at the babies still wrestling with the drones, with the bombs being dropped on them. America, when will you wake up and take justice seriously?
Back here in the United States, the legacy of the summer has been a significant talk about race relations, largely because of the Trayvon Martin case and the Zimmerman verdict. What does that case say, in your view, about the state of race relations right now?
Well, you know, it's a Dred Scott moment. You know, it says that we're still at a point where it's very difficult for people to respect Black life and ascribe value to Black life. We've had magnificent progress for the middle classes and upper classes of people of color. But then the question becomes, are they respected or are they just embraced as tokens? Are they embraced as icons, the way Jay-Z's an icon? But when it comes to really being respected, that's something else.
Can somebody agree with you that there is a general lack of respect, that we haven't made progress, and still believe the jury did the right thing by acquitting George Zimmerman because one of the jurors said that the prosecution, the evidence did not rise to that burden that the jury needed to find him guilty for?
Oh, no, I mean, given the way the law was cast and given the way the verdict was characterized from the very beginning, the possibility of a verdict was characterized from the very beginning, it was difficult for a number of the jurors to draw the conclusion there was enough evidence to actually say that second-degree murder took place. But the larger context, the 46 days it took for the police to get there, you see, the very ways in which the prosecution and the defense didn't make the strongest cases. It was very clear that Brother Trayvon's life just was not a central point of reference, let alone the tears of his precious parents. I mean, and that's what's, for me, most upsetting, because you have to keep in mind, I mean, a black person shot by the police in America every 28 hours. So Trayvon is just one among others every day. You've seen Oscar Grant in the powerful movie, Fruitvale Station. Every day this kind of thing is going on.
What can be done about that deadly violence every day?
Well, one is that you need community policing, so you don't need to militarize the police. You need to have communities that allow persons to flower and flourish, which means you have to have strong families with quality jobs, with quality schools, and with quality housing. And it's as true no matter what color. We got poor brothers and sisters in Appalachia who have similar kinds of struggles with crime and poverty and self-violation.
It's not a black or white issue.
It's not a black or white thing. It's a human thing. It becomes black because the legacy of white supremacy is so vicious that it teaches black people, teaches us to ascribe less value to ourselves, to hate ourselves, to violate ourselves, to demean ourselves, to degrade ourselves, and therefore others can degrade, demean, and violate us as well. But it's a human thing in the sense that you put any group of people in a context with very little resources, a lot of guns, a lot of drugs, dilapidated housing, you're going to get some gangster activity.
Years ago, Bill Cosby said that African Americans in particular should take more personal responsibility for themselves. Just recently, there was a prominent black anchor who said that young black men should pull up their pants, stop using the N-word, stop littering, finish school, and don't have a baby out of wedlock. Your reaction?
Oh yeah, Brother Don Lemon, no, that personal responsibility is very important. There's no doubt about that. But there's such a thing as collective responsibility too.
Next on Talk to Al Jazeera, we'll ask Dr. Cornel West if he would like Hillary Clinton to run for president in 2016.
I've been asked to keep my voice down because we are so close to the ISIL position.
Who is in charge are they going to be held to account?
Right now we're following the research team into the fire.
They are learning how to practice democracy.
Just seen tear gas being thrown. Glad there's somebody that care about us, man.
Several UN workers were kidnapped.
This is what's left of the hospital.
It's a crime that's underreported.
What do you think killed them?
We're making history right now.
Al Jazeera America.
And we welcome back Dr. Cornel West to Talk to Al Jazeera. You're in the midst of a war on poverty, going around the nation trying to deal not just with black kids, white kids, urban, rural. What is the solution? What is the message?
Well, I think we live in a society with warped priorities. Brother Tavis Smiley came up with the idea about 2 years ago to engage in a war on poverty. We've had now 3 different waves of trying to highlight the plight and predicament of poor people. We began on Indian reservations and with poor whites, with poor yellow, poor brown, poor black, and so forth. And it's been a beautiful thing because we've been able to see poor people in action, their voices. At each gathering, we have poor people's organizations. And it's beautiful because you got poor Muslims, poor Christians, poor Jews coming together because they have a common problem vis-a-vis a common foe in the system. I didn't say enemy because we're not talking about hatred. We're not talking about revenge, but we're talking about justice. And you have a common foe because you have people who are constituting impediments and obstacles to how the dignity and decency of poor people is being overlooked. And it's a beautiful thing to say. The sad thing is that it's just hard to gain a foothold in the public conversation.
The public conversation in 2016 may or may not include issues of poverty, but it looks like Hillary Clinton may enter the race. There's quite a bit of buzz around her. Would Hillary Clinton be a good president?
Well, I mean, in some ways, I would think about Hillary Clinton as I do Barack Obama. They both are brilliant. They both are charismatic. They both would be head of an empire. They both involved in war crimes. Of course, Hillary Clinton's right there with the killer list is brought every Tuesday to make the choices as Secretary of State.
Is Dr. Cornel West calling Hillary Clinton a war criminal?
Absolutely.
She is.
Oh,
Hillary
indeed.
Clinton.
Very much so. How could she not be a Secretary of State in the same way Henry Kissinger was? Very much so.
Quite a different Secretary of State than Henry Kissinger. And furthermore,
with drones? Well, Kissinger was involved in this. Anything that moves and breathes, you want to kill. That's genocidal. Now, Hillary's never said that. But she's making the decisions connected to those drones, dropping bombs on hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of innocent people.
She's making diplomatic decisions. It's the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, which is
in the room with the president making decisions in regard to a killer list.
So her not speaking up.
But the good thing is this: we need journalists like Glenn Greenwald, Chris Hedges, Glenn Ford, the Black Agenda Report, and Bruce Dixon and others. Let's do investigation to see what's going on when she was Secretary of State, what's going on with President. And again, I'm not saying this to trash her as a person. She is a person in this system that generates this kind of killing.
Is there anybody around the president who may be part of these discussions, who may object to the policies, but is there anybody who's not a war criminal?
Well, I mean, you'd have to be in a room making a voice in the decision. The people who are just outside had no idea what was going into the decisions and had no role in executing the decision. They're not war criminals. Oh, no, not at all.
Do you understand why some people might say, you know what, I'm hearing Dr. Cornel West call Hillary Clinton a war criminal and think, that seems a little bit extreme.
It is extreme because nobody and very few people in the society want to say it. Very few people in society want to go against the grain in that regard. But if we had the kind of independent journalists, if I.F. Stone were around, if Mencken were around, if T. Thomas Fortune were around and engaged, and think what the early Woodward was involved in. Now, what was his friend's name? I forget his name. Woodward and Bernstein. Now, of course, Woodward's now been completely incorporated. He's now establishmentarian to the core. But there was a time when that brother was young, he was telling the truth about some dirty wars and dirty crimes.
Back to politics in 2016, as far as progress, how important would it be for America if we did elect a woman president?
You know, symbolically, it has some weight. I mean, Margaret Thatcher was a woman. That was a breakthrough against patriarchy, but she turned out to be just as authoritarian and right-wing as any other authoritarian and right-wing Tory. Obama was magnificent, a black president, symbolic, but he turned out to be just as centrist and manipulative and opportunistic as Bill Clinton, who was a poor white brother from Arkansas, you know, gut bucket Jim Crow Arkansas. So Hillary Clinton, she's from outside of Chicago, first woman president, symbolic. I want to fight against patriarchy, just like I want to fight against homophobia and fight against anti-Semitism and fight against anti-Arab.
She has done these things.
Done what?
Hillary Clinton, she has fought against anti-Semitism, against homophobia. The Obama administration ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They've dealt with some of these issues, haven't they?
I think within the formal legal arena, you're absolutely right, and I am with them. When, for example, they came out for same-sex marriage, I was for that. I think it should have been a federal affair, not just affair of the states and so forth. Sure, I'm for that, but I'm also talking about connecting struggles against anti-Semitism and struggles against anti-sexism and anti-racism to issues of class, issues of economic injustice, and most importantly, issues of justice outside of the United States.
I got to ask you, I've been following you for a long time. Yeah. You're wearing your uniform.
Oh, yes.
Black tie. Why do you always wear black?
Well, it comes out of legacy of John Coltrane, comes out of legacy of black preachers, comes out of legacy of Martin King, where we put on our cemetery clothes every day. We are coffin ready because it is our uniform. We put on our armor and say, speak the truth, bear witness, get ready to die with the worms.
That's kind of heavy though, isn't it?
No,
think about death like that?
Oh no, death is a constant companion, just like sadness is, but so is joy, so is fun, so is engagement with the world, you know, absolutely. Rilke understood it, Chekhov understood it better than most, Sondheim understands it better than most, Tennessee Williams understands it better than most. Those are the great artists of living, artists of life who teach us that death in life makes us even more engaged with life the short time that we are alive, and try to leave some kind of witness so that people will remember and try to accent the best of what we enacted and embodied.
Dr. Cornel West, thank you so much for being our guest on Talk to Al Jazeera.
Thank you. Good luck. Good luck.